And good evening, everyone. This is the Rooftop Sports. Along here, my buddy Connor, aka the Couch GM, and we're still waiting on our buddy Trident podcast, who will be here in just a few moments. Now, Mr. Couch GM, how's my new microphone, which I did just buy this morning?
Sounds like it's working good.
Okay, that's good. Just want to double check.
Yeah.
Anyways, we've got some things to cover. Hey, Nelson, how's it going? Thank you for joining the show. So some recent things that's happened. We got Mitch Garver, the new offensive bat for the Mariners, Luis Castillo rumors, and James Paxton joining the Mariners. So we'll go over those big three topics for now. And after that, we'll go over current Mariners that could step up and best free agent signing in Mariners history. As when I do these Mariners talk shows, I do at least bring in some kind of nostalgia in there, since that is, other than live shows, that is also the bulk of my channel. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Thanks for joining. Now, Couch GM, how are you doing, considering it's been a little bit more quiet, but then we're hearing about, is John Stanton dumping more payroll?
I'm doing good. I just made that Mitch Garver player profile, so that was interesting to learn more about him, who he is as a person, his story, where he came from. And it's like, when I saw the initial headline of Mitch Garver being signed, it was like, okay, cool, the Mariners did something. And then as you look deeper into it, there's more reason to be optimistic. And there's a ton of pessimism online about what's going on, and that's understandable. But then you got to try to be optimistic when you can. And there's a lot of good underlying numbers with Mitch Garver that give you reason to be optimistic. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree with you for sure, because at least Mitch Garver should at least be an upgrade what we had last year, which was Cooper Hummel, Tommy La Stella, Mike Ford. So I do look at it that way. Although, in my opinion, I do think we did kind of replace the Tom Murphy offense. So I'm someone that is a snob that wants a little bit more, since our backup catcher, don't even know his name, Seby
Zavala.
Seby Zavala, I got that right. Since he is more for the defense and as Cal Raleigh is the primary, but it is still January 2nd, 2024. Even most of the marquee free agents haven't been signed yet, so maybe there is still time to not necessarily hit the panic button as if most of us already have. But we do need the YouTubers like you, especially first times like this. It looks like you're trying to be the Eugenio Suarez of the YouTubers.
All right, guys, goodbye, Zondy. Don't forget it.
Nice.
That never gets old. And also, before we get started, and we're still waiting on our friend Trident, what did you see in that countdown that was kind of tweaked a little bit?
I was pulling up some stats, so I didn't notice any differences. Sorry.
Oh, well, basically, for Eugenio Suarez and Jared Kelenic, I put in, there was like a John Stanton ghost or something in there to like say, hey, he was part of the reason this happened. And look at the comments we've got here. Some of them are from your people. You got Open Sammy. Thanks for joining. Yes, please. I hope Mitch Garver does stay healthy. That is absolutely what the Mariners need. But hopefully with him just as a DH and not much as a catcher, we'll see.
And that's what it all comes down to, is him staying healthy. Because when he is healthy, as the player profile shows, he is one of the better hitters in baseball when he's healthy.
Yeah, and I remember I went through all of my YouTube shorts, and I actually did call a Mitch Garver home run during the American League Championship Series against Houston, so that was kind of cool, which is why I did repost it. So Cal Raleigh won't be a free agent until 2028. Well, I actually might think that he may be traded. So as we're waiting for our buddy, the Trident podcast, so other than that, not much moves has really been happening. I guess we can talk about too, just really quickly, is did you watch that exciting of a game last night?
Yeah, I mean, both games, Michigan and Alabama, came down to the final play. UW and Texas came down to the final play. And now, for the first time since 91, the Huskies are going to the national title. And my dad is a UW alumni. I'm a Wazoo guy, as people know, but it's also my father-in-law went to UW. So it's nice to see some people happy in the family.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I haven't really came across a lot of people that have like the UW and the Cougars within the family. I actually was a UW myself, but my experience kind of made me think to at least not put so much care into the UW football team. But regardless, great game it was. Definitely looking forward to next week, because the one big thing I'm looking forward to is watching Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines possibly throwing his microphone or his headset, or maybe arguing with the refs. So looking forward to that. And it's going to be interesting. That's going to be a matchup, like a rematchup of 91. And for any UW fans that may have any doubt for the game, just remember back in 91, Michigan lost to UW. 92, the basketball team, they lost to it was Duke with the great Grant Hill and Christian Laettner. And 93 was the Chris Webber timeout game. So if that makes you feel better, Michigan doesn't have the most friendly history in terms of finals appearances or championship or whatever you want to call it. Well, it looks like Jay Trident's taking us a little bit of time, but take your time, buddy.
It looks like he needs the link.
Oh, well, I did send. No, I sent him the link.
Okay.
Oh, and he needs the link. That's a little bit of a oopsie there, but yeah, let's get him over here.
For those of you that are listening right now, I mean, this is kind of, I was listening to the, I forget what it's called exactly, but the Seattle Times podcast with Brian Divish, Adam Jude, also Larry Stone was on there, and they were talking about the moves recently. They were talking about the Mitch Garver move and what might happen after or moving forward. And it's like, think about this Mitch Garver signing if they also had Jared Kelnick and Eugenio Suarez. You know, not even if they re-signed Teoscar, but even if they just had Kelnick starting in the outfield, Julio, and then Canzone is your other outfield guy. You have Gino at third base. Then you add Mitch Garver at DH on top of Ty France at first base. That's a full-looking team. If you just sign that full-time DH and Mitch Garver and he's healthy, that's a solid team right there. Now you have to go and make all these additional signings or moves to fill in the gaps that you lost with Kelnick and Gino. And so,
yeah, it still crushes me to lose both of them, especially Suarez. He was the one man I was willing to keep 200 strikeouts if it meant to be that mentor for Julio Rodriguez. Great defense, should have been nominated for Gold Glove, and still a great offensive bat. Now, Mr. Trident, how are you doing today?
Excellent. I was trying to get on. I realized I did not have the link, so I was trying to catch you anywhere I could to let you know. So thank you, Couch, for I heard you shout it out that I needed the link, so appreciate it. Doing good. I hope everybody else is doing well, and you guys are all recovering from that crazy game last night.
It was, and the thing is, I'm not even that much of a UW fan as I used to be. But even like my old parts of UW was coming back to my body. I mean, I didn't really care if they won, but just the excitement and just that adrenaline was just second to none. And also, before we even get started on our topics, Couch GM has really bailed me out in the first 5 minutes by bringing his audience and reminding me that, did you send that link to the Trident? So thanks a lot, Mr. Couch GM. Now, I did explain this to everyone what we're doing. So Couch GM, this is for you. We're going over Mitch Garver, Luis Castillo trade rumors, James Paxton, current Mariners that could break out, and best free agent signing in Mariners history. That will be the final part of the show, and I will do my best to keep that within an hour because Couch GM definitely needs his breathing room for 8 p.m. show. So go ahead and tune into that. And for anyone that's on my audience, subscribe to the both of these guys, as both of them have been a big part of the growth of my channel. As I would like to say, I've been a big part of them as well, and we can say it in 3 different ways. So Mitch Garver, he signed a 2-year, $24 million contract with the Mariners, which in some ways, I guess I was a little bit relieved that finally the Mariners spent some kind of money to get some offense because, man, Mariners really need offense. Now, my thoughts on it is, well, in my opinion, it replaced a little bit of the Tom Murphy, but hopefully with Sebi as our backup catcher, at least Mitch Garver won't have to take those responsibilities. So that way we don't have to worry about Mitch Garver getting injured. And Couch GM definitely has more to say in it because he did make a video on Mitch Garver. So go ahead and check that out on his profile. So Couch GM, tell us why Mitch Garver is a great upgrade to the team.
Yeah, I mean, you go through his entire career, and he's been a hitter for the most part throughout his entire career. You go to his baseball savant page from last year, and it's littered in red, which is what you like to see. And it's especially the profile that the Mariners front office was looking to add. His chase rate is in the 98th percentile, which is essentially elite. His walk rate is in the 90th percentile. He barrels balls. He has a high expected slug rate. His overall batting run value was in the top 11% of all of hitters last year. And really, it comes down to his health and if he can stay healthy. And if you go through his injuries throughout the years, a vast majority of his injuries are because he was a catcher. It's like he got hit in the head. He ended up having, once he joined the Rangers, he got flexor tendon surgery, which is what Robbie Ray went through. But if he's not playing catcher or throwing the ball, he's not getting that surgery, missing half a season. There was also another substantial injury. What was it? Oh yeah, he got hit in the groin off of a foul ball, which needed emergency surgery. So he missed 60 games. These are all things that could have been avoided if he's not on the field. It's kind of, it's like with the Ty France, where if he's not at first base, if he's just DH, then he has a much better shot at being healthy. But if they can have Mitch Garver at DH full time, not have him catching in any way, not playing first base, just try to swing the bat and stay healthy, I think that's a good move for the Mariners.
Yeah, absolutely great points, especially with the whole DH thing, good chase rate, which something the Mariners need improvement on because Mariners were definitely good at striking out. And even got to the point you saw Julio Rodriguez, he looked like he wanted to murder a baseball. And there were times like, hey, Julio, you don't have to do that. But now, Mr. Trident, how do you feel about Mitch Garver? Because I think you also spoke pretty highly of this one. You even tried to calm down the naysayers, even the John Stanton haters about, hey, it's not a bad signing.
Yeah, I mean, I listen, we've been calling for this team to make moves all off season, right? It's been our frustration that they haven't added. And then I can't call for them to add. And then when they add, go, well, not that type of addition. You know what I mean? So they needed a clear upgrade at DH. The depth chart, was Taylor Trammell or Zach DeLoach before signing Mitch Garver. And there was about 6 names out there for DHs. You had Soler, Teo, Garver, JD Martinez, Justin Turner, Reese Hoskins, all guys that would be clear upgrades at that position. And they got one of those guys, and then obviously everything Couch talked about, same thing. You go look at a savant page and it's very, very encouraging. I didn't know all the injuries came from catching, so that's good to hear that hopefully he can stay healthy as DH. And then maybe as year goes along and he stays healthy, he can catch a little too to take some pressure off Dumper. But yeah, I like the signing. Do I think it's, this team's going to the World Series now? No, they still got work to do, but it's a good signing. It's a clear upgrade at an obvious position of need. And, I'm all for it.
Yeah, something to get behind it because it couldn't be any worse. Couldn't be any worse than getting Cooper Hummel as our DH because we remember how that went. And I don't even think that even lasts the month. So hopefully Mitch Garver will be a big part of the offense because that's something the Mariners desperately need is offense. And I remember, yeah.
I was going to say real quick, Open Sammy points out, wait, this new Mitch also got cup checked? That's correct. 2 Mitches on the Mariners got cup checked. If you think about Mitch Haniger now.
Cup check. There's also a GM named Mitch Kupchak who once ran the Lakers. So pretty interesting.
That's right. I knew that name.
Yeah, it sounded so familiar too, but man, cup checking, yep.
And to go real quick, what Rooftop you just talked about, that's the other good thing about the Mitch Garver signing is last year they got kind of cute with DH, right? Now, I've defended them that I don't think Tommy La Stella was their goal. I don't think they went into last year going, oh, Tommy La Stella is going to be our DH. I think the goal was to kind of move the DH position around and keep guys fresh. But then injuries, and they were forced to go to guys like Tommy La Stella, which is atrocious because Tommy La Stella was horrid. You avoid that now. There's no worries about it. You get to opening day, Scott can write Mitch Garver in at DH, and you're good. It's just nice to kind of have that position taken care of. That was kind of the one thing last offseason where it was like they just never addressed it. It was a big open hole. Then you're stuck with Cooper Hummel, Tommy La Stella. and and all that. But now you've got somebody you can just plug in there and hopefully not worry about too much.
Yeah, just imagine if Mike Ford wasn't even found or used. I don't even think we get even one game within the playoffs without Mike Ford, but he's gone anyway, and we knew that he wasn't going to be the long term. And what also I was going to say was I remember how much I was defending this offense last year and wanted bullpen, which was a very curveball take. I don't think I was far off, but now this year I'm like, where's our offense? Where's our corner outfielders? Unless Canzone can take off to the next level. But that is all about for Mitch Garver. We are now going to move on to Luis Castillo, aka the La Piedra. And there has been rumors where he might get traded, or there's at least a conversation of where he might. And then Couch GM, he came up with a really good point if Mariners do trade away Luis Castillo instead of the likes of Bryce Miller and Brian Wu, because both of those have more controllable contracts. That way, if we get rid of Castillo, maybe that value will be good enough to justify for maybe some kind of bat, or at least some kind of maybe MLB ready prospect. And also, that could also help get the Mariners Blake Snell, which all of us want. Actually, I think he wants to go to the Mariners more than we want him to be on the Mariners. So any extra input on that, Mr. Couch GM?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really initially think about the scenario until I think I saw a tweet from Ryan Divish, or it might have been Adam Jude talk about it. But, at first it's like, that would be insane. But then you look into it a little bit, like, wait, this might make more sense than you think. Castillo's getting, $24 million per year over the next 4 years. There's a vesting option in 2028. If the Mariners are really trying to cut payroll, if they were to trade Luis Castillo for some combination of major league ready guys, you probably would have to send some sort of prospect to that team in order for them to be wanting to take on that amount of money on that contract. But you could get a decent haul for Luis Castillo, use that same money to sign Blake Snell, and then you have that major league ready impact with your offense that you got from that trade versus, trading a young controllable arm that doesn't cost you any money and you're not really shedding any payroll that way. So it also might free up some money, this additional $15 and $20 million that they currently have to be able to go and sign an additional bat on top of whatever you get for Luis Castillo. One scenario, let me ask you this. Would you trade Luis Castillo for Noelvi Marte?
Can I get Jake Fraley back too? Because that would definitely solve our outfield problem. Because I actually...
it's all come full circle.
Right? Yeah, all full circle. Because I remember when we got Eugenio Suarez out of Jake Fraley, I was really sad that we got rid of Jake Fraley because the man at least got on base. And as of now, he has worked out to be at least a decent corner outfielder and someone that the Mariners can use. So if we get Jake Fraley out of that, sure, let's do that. And so we can get Noelvi Marte, even though he's also a strikeout happy guy. But why not at this point?
You have to get creative, and unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's a really, really tough spot because, you got to look at where the Mariners are at, too. If this was a team that I thought was going to win 70, 72 games, I do that trade in a heartbeat. I feel like, Castillo, if you look at the Zips projection, I think it's projected to be worth 4.5 wins above replacement level, which, that doesn't always work out. It's just a projection. We don't know, but a very valuable piece. And I just feel like we're getting a little too cute with it. Like, okay. And I totally agree, Couch, with what you're saying with the trade. Like it makes sense. You know what I mean? Especially with the payroll issues of this team. For me, it's like, I think Castillo's on a good, fairly team-friendly deal. We see what some of these other pitchers have signed for. Giolito's almost making as much as Castillo. Frankie Montas gets $16 million a year. I think it might just be safer, and maybe I'm playing it too safe to just keep Castillo, try to add to other areas. You got a good thing. I don't know. I just feel like it's getting a little cute with it. And that trade's such an interesting scenario because it's like, there's a part of it's like, yeah, because they shed that payroll. You get your third baseman. And if you get Jake Fraley, you solve your corner outfield spot. Then you can go get someone just said I look like Jake Fraley's brother, and I'm laughing now, so I lost my
You actually might, yeah. Might be his alter ego.
You never know. I just need some tattoos and stuff. But it's a tough one. I really, I've always been taught if you don't know, say you don't know, and I really don't. I am torn. I do lean towards keeping Castillo though. I think it's a safer bet. But again, with this ownership, if they're not going to spend, and that's the only way you can free up payroll to do other things, then I do get it. But I do lean towards keeping Castillo.
And let's not get it twisted. Giving up Castillo would absolutely suck. He's
right. No,
top 5
sure.
to 10 arm the next 3 years in baseball. But yeah.
If I have a nitpicker on Castillo, he is a bit home run prone, and he did have that meltdown against Texas and Houston, the American League Division Series, but that's just nitpicker. That's all I've got on nitpicking. But other than that, fantastic pitcher. Even though I'm a George Kirby guy, but yeah, giving up the La Piedra would be tough unless you get like everything that we want out of it. Sure, let's do it, but probably not going to happen.
And I don't think you're nitpicking. It was frustrating. As much as we have frustration with this ownership group and everything with this team, Castillo just pitches to his ability in the last 2 games. This team might have won the division. So I don't think you're nitpicking. It's super frustrating. Now, I think to the point, like, we shouldn't judge someone's, whole season on 2 starts for sure, but super frustrating that 2 starts at home with your ace on the mound, that they blew it and likely missed out on the playoffs because of it. So I don't think you're nitpicking there.
Oh yeah, appreciate it. And now there's a quick comment. It says Rooft0p, biggest Astros Mariners fan. I know it's because I have a lot of Astro friends on my YouTube channel, and the video that did grow my YouTube channel from the very start were related to the Houston Astros. So I don't blame you, but at the same time, I owe them a little bit of something for now.
One of the videos on my list is to make a video about the downfall of the Astros, because that might be coming sooner than you think with the contracts that are coming up and their farm system and all these things. So we'll see.
They're not getting any younger either. Right. And they started kind of showing it. Yeah. And now that Dusty's gone too.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they'll be the sleeper under contender. So who knows? But now we shall move on after Castillo is done. I think that's all we've got. And now there's a rumor that maybe the Mariners are looking at James Paxton because, correct me if I'm wrong, both of you. Looks like James Paxton was at T-Mobile Park for that hockey game between with the Seattle Kraken. He happened to be in that owner's press box, and maybe a possibility to sign James Paxton, who just came back from a horrible injury that he sustained in 2021, had to skip the 2022 season, pitched a little bit in Boston, was kind of decent, and now there's maybe a possibility that they bring him back. Now, I have a few things on this. As much as he would be a very cheap signing, my concern is that if he doesn't work out again, then you kind of lost all that time in trying to get him ready to go, how you can fit him in the rotation. And I don't know. And the other thing is, too, knowing this ownership, they'll be like, well, James Paxton threw a no-hitter in 2018. That is our move. We don't need Blake Snell anymore. So my thing is, like, if we get Blake Snell, will that excuse the management from getting actual players like the Blake Snells or anything else? So that's my take on it. Couch GM, what do you got on James Paxton?
Yeah, I don't know how much actual reality there is in any of those rumors. I'm looking up his baseball savant, and I'm surprised to see that his average fastball in 2023 was still 95 miles an hour. I mean, as you mentioned, when he was at the Mariners, that was some really good times. He was one of my favorite players, the Big Maple. I don't know how realistic it is at a reunion, but maybe a depth piece at some point. But not very reliable at this point.
Maybe more of like the Marco Gonzalez role, like your number 5 guy, and just to basically eat time until Robbie Ray gets here, and hopefully he will be healthy by then, because the last thing that we wanted to see was him not even lasting, like, it felt like he lasted like maybe a few pitches, and flick of the switch, good old friend says, anytime the wind blows, Paxton hits the IR, which not completely wrong. And Open Sammy, how much cheap? I would think as cheap as possible. Trident, how do you feel about James Paxton?
So I actually have a lot to say about Paxton because I actually made a tweet a couple weeks ago. So that I was on, I wanted the Mariners to pursue James Paxton. I made that a point on Twitter. Some agreement, some pushback. So you'd think I'd be gung ho seeing that rumor yesterday. I have a couple concerns. Well, first of all, the reason I like the idea of signing James Paxton, you have a good rotation, you have a great rotation. Your top three is as good as any rotation in baseball. And you've got a couple guys on the back end that have really good upside, but you look at Bryce Miller, Savant Page, it's not pretty, and Brian Wu has some injury issues as well. So when you're really good at something, you can take flyers, right? Because it's like, hey, if Paxton signs, it doesn't work out, it's probably not going to kill your rotation at all. You're still good. However, with this team's budget and what other pitchers are going for, I mean, if Frankie Montas is getting $16 million, I mean, James Paxton, who did pitch last year, I don't think he'll get 16, but he might get 8, 9 with incentives to get up to 12, 13. And unfortunately, with this team's budget, if they had the Dodgers budget, I'd say, yeah, like bring him in. And if he gets hurt in spring training and can't pitch, so be it, whatever. But for the Mariners, that could be an outfield bat that they need, that they have to have, because this offense just isn't good enough at the moment. So I love the idea of bringing the Big Maple in as just, hey, if you can get 150 innings somehow out of him, Steamer projects him for like almost, I think, 2.5 wins above replacement level for 140 innings. So it would be a great signing. I just, with this team's budget, I don't know if it would make financial sense, unfortunately. It's just, yeah, I don't know if it would make sense.
Who knows? Yeah. And man, if only the Mariners, think about it, if the Mariners had that Dodgers budget, or our ideal budget that we would like, Shohei Ohtani's our DH, Eugenio Suarez is still there, Cody Bellinger, Blake Snell is probably on the team, Jared Kelenic is there. If only we could dream.
So the Dodgers are kind of a unicorn. I don't know if you guys saw, I think it was a video by Barstool on Instagram. I'll have to send it to you guys, but they did a breakdown of the Dodgers stadium. Apparently it has the largest capacity out of any stadium outside of the Oakland A's, which is obviously empty all the time. But the average amount of fans that the Dodgers have per game, and then you take the average cost of a ticket at a Dodgers game, when you multiply those two numbers together, it's something like $100 million a year, to where the Dodgers are making more in revenue on ticket sales alone that would be able to afford, the salaries of Ohtani and Yamamoto in a year. And so when you look at just the differences in revenues between teams, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Nothing surprises me on that.
Sometimes.
Especially anything with Los Angeles in it.
Right. It's the second it's the second most populated, city in America. So
also that another thing to play into was Shohei Ohtani, his fan base from Japanese, they also have the largest Japanese population in America as well. So that also plays a role. And of course, Shohei Ohtani didn't even have to move his home. He didn't have to go anywhere. So I guess that is all about the James Paxton. So we're going to go over the current Mariners on who we think can step up. And before we do, let's take a look at any of the comments and see which is note highlighting. So Kick Dirt, just like Trident said, he believes that Paxton is expected to make something.
Oh.
Only makes sense if we flip Miller and Wu into impact bats, which is something that we all want. Animal Sanctuary, I think he's our Detroit friend. Shohei Ohtani is overrated and deserves $10 million a year max. Mic drop and walks away like they do in movies. Very nice. At least not $70 million a year. Well, at least Dodgers don't have to worry about that anytime soon. He says, I hate that Yamamoto is getting more than proven MLB pitchers. Yeah. Big Maple signs. Sadly gets injured quickly in the season, which happened in 2021. Anyone else puts up amazing numbers? Yep, that sounds like the Mariners. And then Dixon says, Ty France will have a comeback season, which we're all hoping.
I like that.
We're all hoping that Couch GM's video does hit the nail on the head, which is why we're going into the current Mariners on who we think that could step up. And this time, I'm going to say Trident, and we'll go from Trident to Couch to myself. Which current Mariners do we have right now do you expect to take it to the next level? And if that player's name you cannot use, that the next person cannot use the same baseball player. So who do you got, Trident? Who on the team are you most looking forward to take the next step?
It's going to sound kind of crazy because he's kind of already there, but I'm going to go with Julio. I think there's still another gear inside Julio. I mean, this guy, ended up third or fourth in the American League and wins above replacement level last year, despite kind of having what we considered a bit of a subpar first half for all intents and purposes. I'm going to go Julio. I think Julio takes that next step, and he was my prediction for AL MVP last year, and he's going to be my prediction again this year, especially with Ohtani out of the American League. So I'm going to say Julio. I think he can be a 7.5 win player, and I'll go with Julio.
I've already said Ty France with one of my videos, but I'm going to say Dominic Canzone. I think he can be a real production guy for the Mariners this next year. You look at all throughout college, all throughout the minor leagues, over 4 seasons in the minor leagues, he's got a 310 batting average and 933 OPS. He's got serious bat to ball skills while also having some serious power, as we saw with his first home run with the Mariners in Seattle against the Orioles, a moonshot. I think he has a chance to be a real contributor next year.
Yeah, and I am kind of excited with the whole idea of Dominic Canzone. The most disappointing thing, and I actually did enjoy watching Canzone towards the end of this, well, at least in August, was, did anyone notice that he didn't really get that much playing time as much as we hoped in the last 10 games? Because when we saw those lineups, most of it was like you saw Sam Haggerty, Dylan Moore taking those bats, which I wanted them to be used for pinch running situations. Because I remember that Dodgers game specifically, the second game, Mike Ford, I think he hit an RBI single. But the sad thing was you couldn't pinch hit or pinch run Dylan Moore or Sam Haggerty because they were already used. So maybe had the guy been up first, maybe anyone could have just circled around with that speed. But you had poor Mike Ford, big guy with those big hitting muscles, but no speed to go home with that. But yeah, anyways, yeah, 350, the F1 350 or F350. But yeah, Dominic Canzone it is a curious case on see if he would make that next step, and I would hope so because the man's 25, so he's got to figure it out at some point. And if the Mariners aren't going to really add anyone, then sure, you might as well try to see if he can work out. And hopefully maybe Cade Marlowe can take the next step, which I don't think anyone expects. So hopefully the Mariners do add the outfield. And now, Trident, you said Julio, you said Canzone. If I have a player that I'm hoping that takes it to the next level, I'm hoping that it would be George Kirby. Now, I would say Ty France, but we already know about the whole Ty France thing. He did the same thing that JP Crawford did. And someone said, and it was a really good point in somewhere in the video or somewhere in the chat, but it was Steven that says, if you're a Ty France, it is unacceptable for Crawford to hit more home runs than you, which did happen. So hopefully with that training that he does, hopefully he can at least somewhat out home run the JP Crawford. But the pitcher that I'm looking forward to, and I'm always looking forward to, is George Kirby because of that upside that he has. Even at that last game, he came up with that knuckleball for like a split second. I know Trident was there in the live to see that. He's a young man. He's very competitive. Hopefully, he did learn his lesson from that slight media nightmare that he had when he's like, oh, I didn't really want to pitch above 7 innings, to be honest. I was tired, and that was to the point where Roger Clemens chewed him out. So hopefully he learned his lesson there and that he will just go out and compete. And plus, we have a manager that will no problem manage your pitching load anyway, since he does like to play with the numbers and try to not go above 100. So I'm still a little bit surprised he even thought of that, but I do think that he should take it to the next step to be the ace if Castillo is not for any reason. And I remember during the All-Star game voting processes, I actually thought he should have been the first one to be chosen instead of Castillo, in my opinion. So hopefully George Kirby can take it to the next level. And looks like that is it for the Mariners to take it to the next level. And since we have just a little bit more time, or we do have some time, we don't really talk about it much, especially in the offseason. The Mariners farm system, where there has been some exciting players. Now, problem is the guys like Cole Young, Felnin Celestine, Lazaro Montez, Harry Ford, Cole Young, if I haven't said his name yet, they're all just too young right now. And it looks like, and none of them haven't even made it to AA level yet. So, but there are other prospects out there like Tyler Locklear, who could be the third baseman, maybe, or Ryan Bliss, who they got out of the Paul Sewald trade. So I'll ask each and one of you, as a prediction base, who do you think will contribute to the major league level out of all of these prospects? And it could be any of them. And it'll be the same thing as the whole Mariners, you can't use the same player. So Trident, which Mariners prospect do you expect to see for the 2024 season at any point in the season?
Oh boy, testing my lack of knowledge of the farm system. Can I still say Emerson Hancock? Probably. Does that still count?
Go ahead, yeah.
I'll go with Emerson
counts.
Hancock. I think there's a chance you've got Woo or Miller traded or something else, maybe a Castillo trade. I don't know. We didn't see a ton of Hancock last year, about 3 starts. I didn't love what I saw. I was a little disappointed. The strikeout numbers were a little weak, but I think of all the guys, assuming he's not traded, that he would be one that would definitely contribute the most, at least in 2024. Because like you said, a lot of those guys are still fairly far out, at least a couple years. So I'll go with Emerson Hancock.
Emerson Hancock, yeah, good point. And he did have a pretty decent start against Houston when they were going for that sweep, but unfortunately the injuries got to him, which unfortunately shut him down. Couch GM, any prospects you got? Because I know you've always got those interesting names out there.
Yeah, I mean, as some of these people are commenting, I would have to say Ryan Bliss is the most realistic prospect to come up and make an impact. Harry Ford is a sleeper, and I was curious if he would have the kind of jump during spring training like Julio did a couple years ago, to where he just plays his way onto the roster if he could be that good. But Ryan Bliss, realistically, Josh Rojas at second base, at least have some sort of platoon, I imagine. When Bliss first comes up, he's a righty, Rojas is a lefty, but he's another guy that's really hit throughout the minor leagues that could, another impact contact bat that the Mariners are needing right now.
Absolutely. And I did see a little bit of Ryan Bliss, as I do watch a little bit of minor league baseball. I intend to do a little bit more. I intend to also go to the Everett games, which I'm looking forward to, because we're going to see Lazaro Montez up there. I think that's one of the only ones where I'm really going to see. And also I expect like Cole Young, Harry Ford, and Tyler Locklear to start in AA. Hopefully we'll see them more in spring training. And yeah, I do like the idea. I do think that Bliss would be great for platooning with Josh Rojas, because that means Luis Urias can play at third base, even though not exactly that comfortable seeing him as a third baseman. Wanted him as a platoon, but then I guess if Ryan Bliss can contribute, then sure, hopefully that works out. But then it's always a crapshoot with the young players, because you can't know for sure if they're going to contribute immediately. Like even Julio Rodriguez, he took a whole month to figure it out. So hopefully it all works out. Now, the player that I'm thinking of would say Harry Ford, but he hasn't played in the double A's yet. So I would think he would be just a little bit later. But I think I'm going to go with Tyler Locklear, who he did suffer a little bit of an injury. He's our third baseman. He's in Arkansas. He is, I would think that he's going to be, or has, as if he hasn't been in Arkansas yet. But I think he might be the sleeper MLB ready guy. And maybe it's a little bit of a reason why the Mariners haven't really addressed the third base yet, but he does have good power. So hopefully they can get something out of him, because he is one of the older prospects for the Mariners. So hopefully he'll get an opportunity, as if Jerry Dipoto does continue to build the farm system, which for the most part has done pretty well, with the exception of just Evan White didn't work out. And I think Evan White's the one that stuck out that unfortunately didn't work out, and Kyle Lewis. And boy, it's sad to see where Kyle Lewis is at now, because just now it's 4 years ago. He was Rookie of the Year. Crazy to think that Kyle Lewis being on the Mariners was 2 to 4 years ago, and 4 years ago, and he was actually a contributor.
Remember when he came back in 20? I think it was 21. No, was it 22?
22.
Yeah, he came. Yeah, and remember they put him in right field for a game. Do you guys remember that? And him going after a ball in right field, it was hard to watch. His injuries just limited him so much. I mean, it looked like an old man out there in right field trying to run down. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but it was rough when he came back. And unfortunately, the injuries have just caught up. It's such a shame, too. Seems like a great guy, rooting for him. Would have been great to have him succeed here. Same with Evan White. But yeah, I remember when Lewis came back in 22 and just seeing him in right field, I was like, oh my, I was blown away seeing him try to run out a fly ball. It was just tough to look at.
I have flashbacks to Kyle Lewis hitting that no doubt home run off of Verlander's fastball to start the game back in 2020.
That's right. That was they had 4 home runs off Verlander. Julio, Trammell, I think Ty and Lewis. That was kind of the turnaround that year a little bit. That was kind of the start of when they got going.
Good Crazy times. To think that now 22 just feels so nostalgic now, considering how this team has transformed into. And the one thing I do remember about Kyle Lewis's situation. Sorry, Trident, but one thing I do remember about Kyle Lewis was I remember when he started in Everett, he was tearing it up really good, and then he tore his ACL. And I remember I was going to buy a ticket to watch him, and then the injuries happened, so I ended up not going. But when that happened, I was thinking, oh, great. It's kind of hard to come back from a torn ACL, especially like that. So I was nervous about him the entire time, and unfortunately, my concerns unfortunately became true. Now, it looks like we've got 18 minutes left on the show, and I appreciate everyone, especially all of Couch GM's audience, coming in to contribute to the show, and some of them making jokes about me, too, that I'm this closet Astros fan or anything like that. But one comment that sticks out, it's the Trident of Mariners content creators. You guys are awesome. We do appreciate that, and
thank you.
We definitely want to make this the long-term thing of the future, because nothing better than making a career out of talking about something we love to do. But for all 3 of us, we are still grinding, and we're going to do as much as we can. And now the last part, the part I'm looking forward to, is best free agent signing in Mariners history. As much as the negativity has been going on about Mariners offseason, I want to talk about any of the good moves that the Mariners made in free agency. Now, it's simple. Who did the Mariners sign? Did it work out? Did they pay a lot of money? Did they go cheap? Maybe I would like to see if there were any big free agent signings out of the 2 of you or the 3 of us, if any of them were big signings for long term, and if any of them did work out. Now, I will go first. Now, before we get started, flick of the switch says Mark Whitten. Actually, Mark Whitten was through trade in 1996 in early August to fill that void for left field, because Mariners traded away Darren Bragg, who was their starting left fielder, for Jamie Moyer. So the Mariners swung around and made a trade for Mark Whitten, who hit 12 home runs in just the last 2 months of the season. And the Mariners didn't even bring him back because cheapness. Now, the player that I think about the most when it comes to the best free agent signing in Mariners history, it is Brett Boone. He signed on a 1-year, $3 million. And I called this move the Moneyball before Moneyball, because that was when Alex Rodriguez had just departed from the Mariners. And who was going to fill that void? Who was going to fill 41 home runs and 132 RBIs, batting .316 with an insane on-base percentage? Fortunately, the Mariners got, hate to say it, insanely lucky with the production of Brett Boone. And some would say steroids, some would say it was good luck or whatever it was. But put that aside, he was a huge part of that 2001 season. And at that time, it did make the Mariners ownership look like geniuses that they only spent a huge fraction of A-Rod's kind of contract to get almost the same production. And he turned out to be the second baseman from 2001 all the way to 2005. So I think that will go down as, in my opinion, that's the best free agent signing the Mariners have ever done. Trident, who's your man?
I gotta say, the chat has mentioned a lot of really good ones. And I feel like this is just kind of an easiest, obvious answer. Some of them are making me laugh too. But I'm gonna go Ichiro, if that counts. But
Counts.
I
He
mean,
was free agent.
Hall of Famer, just the ultimate professional. My favorite player from that era. Such a shame after 2001 that he got stuck on so many bad Mariners teams, because man, did he deserve to play in the playoffs, him and Felix both. But yeah, I'm going to go with Ichiro.
I don't know if it was the best signing that the Mariners have done, but one of the biggest like wow moves for me was Robinson Cano to that 10-year contract after he was playing for the Yankees. You know, a guy that you just didn't expect to come play for the Mariners, really. And then just looking back at those rosters from 2014 to 2018, those were the good days. You know, we were talking about Paxton, Mitch Haniger. My first Mariners jersey that I bought myself was a Mitch Haniger jersey in 2017 when we first traded for him. So, I mean, just looking at those rosters, Nelson Cruz, of course. Yeah, I'd say Robinson Cano, just that impact type move.
It really did, because it did attract the likes of Nelson Cruz. And unfortunately, the only disappointing part of getting Robinson Cano in 2014 was Robinson Cano was actually begging the Mariners to get Nelson Cruz before he got picked up by the Orioles. And I remember it was like, I think it was Seattle Times, Danny O'Neill, or there was someone in that Seattle media that was like, hey, Robinson, you don't tell the team what to do. And I remember there was a fan that was trying to call out ownership, and he got hung up immediately. And I was like, dang, quite the censoring. But yeah, as much as, I mean, unfortunately, it turned out that Robinson Cano did get in a lot of trouble with that suspension of the PEDs. But aside from that, I still would do that move 100 more times. Only thing I would have done differently was just get that team to the World Series, because it is quite tragic that Robinson Cano, Nelson Cruz, Kyle Seager, Felix Hernandez, and all those guys, they still didn't get to even see a wild card round. And that 2014 season was actually just that face that you look on Felix Hernandez. It said it all, that he really wanted to compete in the playoffs and didn't get to see it. Now that we've covered I
would say, to Couch's point with Cano, I just remember he was going back to the Yankees. There wasn't even like a debate. It was the Yankees. I don't even remember there being teams rumored with Cano. It was just, yeah, Yankees are going to resign him. Then I remember waking up one day and checking my phone and just seeing that Robinson Cano signed with the Mariners. And I had to double check 20 accounts to make sure. I'm like, there's no way we just signed Robinson Cano. So that was just definitely probably the most right. That was the most holy, you know what, signing, free agent signing that the Mariners had. And for the most part, it worked out. And when he faded, they got a great haul for him.
They did. They got Jared Kelenic out of it, and even Justin Dunn, who turned into Eugenio Suarez. And again, so Robinson Cano was a huge part of not only 2014 to 2018, but he was a huge part of the rebuild, or maybe you can call it the reload. And now to think of it, I actually have a video of myself reacting to Robinson Cano, and I'm actually going to dig through my computer if I can find that. I'm just going to post on YouTube. And this was off of my old Samsung phone, or maybe it was a Samsung phone, where I was just screaming and singing. I put Jingle Bells and Robinson Cano in the same song, however. So hopefully I can find it so I can post it just to see how I did it back then. But before we get into the ending of the show, which is getting pretty close, let's take a look at the other names that they put out. They put out Slam Tana. I think that's Carlos Santana, probably. That was by trade, though. Nelson Cruz, yes, fantastic signing. I think that's the biggest steal of a contract that the Mariners gave him, which was unexpected. Tommy La Stella will never be forgotten. It was negatively impressive. That's a great comment right there. Let's not forget John Olerud. Great call.
Great one.
John Olerud, great first baseman. He was the best first. He became the best first baseman since Tino Martinez, unless you want to name Paul Sorrento or David Segui, the man who took Lou Pinella's seat on the bus in that commercial and had to give the Moose a bath as punishment by Jay Buhner. Luis Sojo was actually, that was a sneaky good signing because that was after the Mariners traded away Omar Vizquel. Man, we could have had Omar Vizquel and Alex Rodriguez on the same team, but at least Luis Sojo did do the everybody scores of 95. Adrian Beltre, yep, that was a great signing. I would still keep doing it. People like to say it was bad just because the Mariners were bad, but in actuality, he was a great signing. Jay Buhner, hate to say it to you, he was actually a trade through Ken Phelps, which became famous through Seinfeld with the whole, what the heck did you trade Jay Buhner for? He hit 30 home runs and like 100-something RBIs. You had no idea what you're doing, which he said during the 96 season, but then the Yankees won a World Series, so I'm sure he forgave him for that. But imagine Mariners could have had Boone and Rodriguez. Yeah. Norm Charlton he was actually a signing in 95 in that mid-off season when he was cut by the Reds. Yes, Carlos Silva. Fantastic signing. He helped the Mariners get all the way to the number 2 overall pick to get Dustin Ackley. Great signing. The only Mariners jersey I have is the 2023 All-Star jerseys. Oh, that's nice. Yep, we were all stoked for Cano. And these comments just keep on coming. Trying to think of anything else. Olerud was Ohtani in college. Oh, yep. Kazuhiro Sasaki. Great. Remember the Thang, the splitter. And I think that's
hit in Washington State.
Yeah, he did. Cougar, along with the Couch GM. But that is actually everything that we went through. And let's do another quick one. Trident, how do you feel about Mariners going into 2024? And do you think maybe they'll make some kind of move going into 24? And actually, let's even do this. Let's do a prediction. If this team stood now, where would it be?
I think, I think they're going to make more moves. I think at the very minimum, I think they'll get a platoon partner for Dom Canzone in the outfield. I do expect them to make some kind of trade, whether that's Kepler, Polanco in Minnesota. Maybe they're still involved for Paredes in Tampa. Maybe there's something with Woo Miller because I don't know who it'll be, but I do expect them to make a trade and probably one other very low signing. Like I could see them getting a Robbie Grossman, platooning him with Canzone, something like that. I think this team can compete. I do. I haven't loved this offseason necessarily. It's been kind of a couple steps back to take a step forward here and there, but I love the core of this team. I think Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert, Julio, Cal, JP, if Ty can bounce back, you got Mitch Garver at DH. I think this team can compete. Zips had them projected to be at 87.5 wins. That was before Mitch Garver. So you're probably at, if you go off their system, 88.5 now, maybe. I think it's probably a little lower just looking at the roster right now, but it's possible. And if Houston kind of takes a step back, Texas probably overperformed a little bit last year. I don't know. They got a lot of in the first half of the year. I think they were OPSing like 1,000 with runners in scoring positions. So that's probably going to drop off a little bit. And the Mariners last year, remember their record in 1-run games and extra inning games is very poor. So they can kind of get that back to 500 and make a couple moves. I think this team can absolutely compete for a playoff spot. So we'll see. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the Mariners pitching could really carry them further than people probably would think. And even with the roster where it's currently at, they're probably above a 500 team. Like you just described, the top 5 of the lineup, JP, Julio, probably Mitch Garver 3, Cal Raleigh 4, Ty France 5. And then if Canzone has a coming out party this year at 6, it's really those bottom 3 spots are the ones that you're needing to figure out how to work around now. So the Mariners, obviously aren't done. They're probably going to get 1, maybe 2 bats. We'll see, Dipoto will always make the move that you don't see coming. all these moves that we're talking about, it's going to be something out of left field, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that one. But it's always something that will get us excited again at some point before the offseason. That's my take.
Those are good points. Makes me remember, like, everyone remember how that Eugenio Suarez and Jesse Winker trade happened? That happened like literally at the crack of spring training. So you never know if if Jerry DiPoto does swing a magic and, of course, get this team excited, which you're not wrong. Maybe they will find some way to get this team rehyped for whatever silly reason. Who knows? But as of for me, starting pitching's great. I still want a closer unless Matt Brash, who, ironically, after Couch GM and I have discussed several times, I do think he is actually the best suited to be our closer over Andres Munoz, because Munoz has shown he did show some blown saves, and at least Brash he came a long way. Like, we can all agree that he had a rocky start and he came out to be the best pitcher in the bullpen. So I would like some tweak on the bullpen, which Jerry DiPoto, he does tend to get mid-level players for almost nothing. He moneyballs that. But the offense makes me very nervous. Corner outfield, third base, needs improvement. And as of now, if the team stays like this, I'm expecting to be best case scenario, like an 85 win team. Worst case, like if it gets really, really bad, 75. And I know that's a huge burning take, but the team has to improve, and you have to improve. You have to depend on like Julio going out, Ty France breaking out, JP Crawford still maintaining, and everyone else taking it to the next level. So it's gonna be rough. But even if whether the Mariners are good or bad, the one thing I'm looking forward to is, because Root Sports is now part of that premium package for Xfinity or Fubo, I am looking forward, especially all three of us, if we're going to do play-by-plays in the future, which Trident and I do together. There will be an opportunity for Mariners fans to experience a voice of Seattle Mariners baseball. Just like Trident, he experienced my voice for the Huskies game. So that's the one thing I do look forward to. If there's anything positive to look forward to, is opportunities for me as a content creator and everyone else to step in and do the play-by-play on our own. Because one time I said I could do better than Dave Sims, and now I'm grinding my way to prove that. So those are my last thoughts for the Mariners, but looks like time's running out. Trident's got to go. I got some videos to cut. Couch has got a show to prepare. So we're going to end it there. And everyone else, thank you very much for being part of this show. Thank you very much for being with us. Subscribe to all three of us. Hit the like buttons. Join our memberships. Donate. Do what you got to do to support us. Everyone, have a great night, and go Mariners.